Hello everyone. Finally, we have the chance to start. Sorry for the little bit of delay. We had another info session that we have been actually working, but the thing is, we want to use a Zoom webinar here, and the interest is so huge, so we had to actually put it to the webinar mode. So I hope everyone can hear us. We are already quite big numbers. People are joining. In the meantime, I will give a quick maybe intro for a few minutes, and then while you are joining, we can kickstart with Dilmer. And then after this session, as you know, in 50 minutes, we will start the graduation ceremony. One important question is please make sure that if you have any questions, don't even wait. Use the Q&A tab. Probably you are seeing this question mark. Feel free to use that and then already submit your questions. We will also, if we have time, we will also let you to even talk in person, at least through video. So happy to get as many questions as we can answered as much as the time allows. So let me share my screen. Dilmer, hello Dilmer, how's everything? Well, I hope you are.
Hey guys, how are you? Farhan, it's a pleasure to be here and excited about this. So many
Yeah,
people.
we are so used to see you on YouTube. It is very interesting that I'm talking with a Dilmer, which is actually interactive, like the dialogue. It's very interesting.
Yeah. No, this
So
is gonna be exciting because it's not pre-recorded, so it's gonna
exactly,
be
exactly.
different
So
for me.
I
So
hope that it will never last, that we will see you a lot in an interactive way, not only recorded way. Of course, your recorded things are amazing, very packed and good for our efficiency of our time, but it's very nice to see you flash with everything. So let's see how will everyone enjoy. People we just see him in YouTube. Exactly. There are many chats. There are many people from joining from like all around the world. I know if you look, but Tunisia, US, Turkey, Argentina, Germany, Athens, Canada. So it's like a really Mexico. There's really Saudi. I think all around the world. I think even Asia is here with us today, even though it's a little bit maybe late for them. Let me share my screen quickly for a couple of minutes of intro why we are doing this session, and then afterwards we will take the stage to Dilmer to share his journey. Great. I hope you can see my screen now. Perfect. Yes, here we are. Dilmer, we met with him quite a while ago, and he's very special for not only for me, for our team, but also for our community as well. I don't know what is the frequency of a Dilmer's YouTube link being shared in our servers. So it's like a quite quite frequent. So we are really happy that Dilmer is with us and then sharing the stage right after his new journey. And as you know, we had this top 18 XR enablers we've selected. I think I have some access issue, but we hand over an award. I know you have it. Is it with you now, Dilmer? Maybe you can show. But we are really proud to have Dilmer, one of the enablers in our selected by 7,000 people. Yes, I think it's much better that
Yeah.
you show
Thank
in.
you so much, Farhan,
Yeah,
for sharing this during Meta Connect. It was
exactly.
just to get it and work with you guys.
Exactly. And it's well deserved. I think our goal is to really appreciate the people who are maybe not so much speaking on the conferences, business people, etc., but the people who are actually helping the developers, so creators. We are happy to have Dilmer working on enabling the community and the whole XR developer ecosystem. For those who don't know about us, we are XR Bootcamp. We are an online academy, and then we are working on tech adoption with companies like leading XR companies. and also working on the dev activation. We have quite interesting projects last year, and then we will continue most of them this year as well. And then we are actually a community. In case you haven't joined yet, we have a Discord channel, XR Creators. Our team will share that link with you so you can join. And the important thing for us is we want you to get the most important experience and knowledge from the people who actually build apps and games on the store with multiple published titles. And our programs are being designed that we are creating some kind of like a bridge between these masterminds like Dilmer and also the people who wants to break into the XR industry. We are actually, this is an interesting announcement for us as well, because maybe some of you know this Gorilazilla course is actually a free course. Our team is also sharing the bit.ly link with you, so it's like a free course. You just need to use the code. But this game already reached 426,000 downloads. So it's like a huge number for the whole industry. It's a free game. Of course, there is a maybe reason behind that, but thanks for really joining us, not only playing this Gorilazilla game, but also using this game as an opportunity to have this Udemy course, which is actually quite interesting course because we call it Netflix style binge follow along. So you can start the video, like think of this like Dilmer's tutorials, but it's a little bit much more like a back to back. And then you are learning all the tech stack of Meta on the MR side. And we have just actually updated, as you see in the picture. So we are happy that you can access to this course today along with Dilmer's videos. So what we are doing, actually, we are working on XR Bootcamp program, which we will make a graduation ceremony soon. There's foundations and prototyping and career services. The most important part that I want to mention is in the foundations, you are learning Unity, C#, and also VR development. But on the prototyping phase, imagine this like a 2 months of non-stop hackathons, and so you have back-to-back sprints. You are basically experiencing a studio-like environment, professional environment, that you are actually building apps back-to-back, and then you are joining forces with your teammates to build as a team as well. We have good news. The scholarship for XR Bootcamp next cohort is still available. I think we have 48 hours left. So if you are interested, feel free to apply. Our team is also sharing the link on the chat. So don't miss this opportunity, because it gives you like an Ivy League quality 4 months of program with lots of scholarships thanks to Unity, Jobs for the Future. And Meta was also one of the partners in for the previous cohorts. So we are really thankful all these partners to make this high quality education become accessible. And congratulations of the 2025 cohort, which we will go into that in the next minutes after Dilmer's session finished. Last, maybe not least, we have also global XR hack. In case you haven't heard, it's an amazing opportunity that you can, on top of your learning, you can actually hack as well. And I hope that you will join us in one of these destinations, which we will share more in the next few weeks. Perfect. I think this info part is right now perfectly enough. I would like to share the presentation, stop the presentation so you can share it, Dilmer, and would like to welcome you again to this Career Navigator session. As some of you know, Career Navigator session is how we are doing that. Dilmer will share a little bit of his journey and his tips, career tips and lessons learned, which will be quite intimate actually. And then afterwards, we will have Ask Me Anything session, which we will go through the Q&A tab. So please, if you have any question, I see already 3 questions. feel free to add your question under the video. You will see a Q&A tab that you can submit. Thank you, Dilmer, again, and stage is yours.
Awesome. Hey, first of all, thank you very much, Farhan, for this opportunity. And can everybody see what I'm presenting right now? Can you see slide one? Okay. So first of all, thank you. I think this is not just about me. This is not about my videos. I think this is about the people that are here and the people that are watching and learning and growing. I think this is what I want you to take away from. Like, my experience is going to be more for you to kind of get an idea of the path that I took. And the path that I took is going to be, it could be a lot different to the one that you would take, but I wanted to be an inspiration for you, and how things shape out for me has been really incredible. I'm working right now for Meta. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dilmer. These are some of my social media channels. I create content quite a bit, and I've been doing it for a long time. And I was also born and raised in South America, Venezuela. Even though I don't speak Spanish in my videos, I speak Spanish fluently, and I've been in the U.S. for more than 20 years. So it's been quite an experience. I grew up in a family that owned photo studios back in South America. So I was always around Fujifilm, Canon, the big machines that would basically produce the photos that now we can easily take and get from our phones. So I've been in that since I was a little kid, and then got my first computer, my i586, when I was 8. And I put in here that I broke it in less than a week because my parents saved for about, I think it was 2 years that it took us to save money to buy a computer. And then as soon as I got it, I broke it. And the reason why I broke it is because I was always really curious about what was the System32 folder, like what were all the different DLs, and I would delete things and move things around. But I think from an early age, I realized that I was really, really curious about technology. So that was kind of like my first. And then after that, I kind of learned to fix it. I would sit down with the guy that my dad would hire to fix the computer, and then I will watch. And I think from an early age, I've been like that, like learning all the time how to fix computers and so on. So I also love to work out. I think I don't do it just to look, to look fit. I do it for mental, so that I can keep creating content. I can keep learning. I think it's just a great way to disconnect. And then I love, like I said, messing around with technology. My experience in my career, I started as a junior software developer right after college. So I went here in Salt Lake City, I went to Salt Lake Community College. I did a 2-year degree. And then after that, I did also a bachelor's in computer science. So yeah, nothing related to XR at this point. Then I got a second job as a mid software developer, and I started a computer science bachelor's. And then my third job was as a research and development, more on the XR, and I'll talk more about that as we go on. And then I created minimalistic video games. That's kind of how I started. I'll show you that on the next slide. But I'm always like really intrigued with very simple looking games. I love really detailed games, but like the simplicity of minimalism, I think it's something that you'll see, like my black hat. I try to keep things very simple, and not because I like that, because it makes things easier for me too. And then I share over 100 projects on GitHub for every video that I do, for projects that I work on. I will talk about how that can also help you in doing that on your own. I think it's the feedback that I'm going to give you today. It's going to be very, very important. And then I've done a lot of videos on many different technologies, and I found that Learn XR, where I did pre-recording videos for people to learn XR and also augmented reality. So if we go here to the next slide. So you guys can see here, these are like some of the early games, and I made many mobile games when I started. This was in 2017 when I started making a game that kind of looked like Limbo, but it didn't really have the amazing looking feel of Limbo. So again, minimalistic 2D, trying different mechanics. So you could use like anti-gravity to jump on it, and then that will allow you to, just to get another coin. And if you get that coin, you can basically solve the level. So this was a really fun game. It took me 3 years to develop this game on my own. And everything is like generated from a JSON file. And there's like 35 different levels. Then after that took me 3 years, and I released that for PC, Mac, and mobile. It didn't do like as good as you would say to really do it full time. So, but I had a lot of fun. I think the takeaway from doing this is I learned a lot of things that I'm grateful for, because that allowed me to do what I do today. Then after that, it's like, well, that took 3 years. Can I make a game in 3 months? And then, so I made something really simple. It's called Cubics. And this was more a similar approach to this, where things were like procedural generated, not randomized, but it was generated from a data structure. And then based on that data structure, I would have different levels. And then, so that one went out to mobile, Mac, and it actually got featured on the Apple TV and also on the US store back then. So that was pretty amazing to be able to do that as a solo developer. And then I wanted to do another game, so I ended up like, oh, can I do, instead of 1 cube, can I do multiple cubes? And then in this one, you would see that every movement applies to all different cubes, but you have to get the cubes to basically all line in the white area. So it was a mechanic that I discovered by playing around with this game, and I wanted to change it a little bit on this one to be more of a like black and white. And then I did other games. This was similar to Beat Saber, but not like with the 3D. Basically, you would swipe, and depending on the direction of the arrows. And then you have different mechanics in here, like bombs that you would accumulate. And then you would basically have to protect yourself from all those different circles. And I did another one on fuse balls, also minimalistic game. This one I worked with somebody else on it. And the idea is similar to Tetris, but you're using balls, and then you're basically rotating and swiping to align the balls that are the same color. And you have different power-ups that you can accumulate. And it was a pretty fun game to work on. Tiny wheels, pretty simple, more like it changes over time. So that was kind of like making a 3D game. So I made a couple of 3D games in here, 2D games. Another game that I never released, I actually prototyped, similar look and feel, but I wanted to do kind of like a golf, but with multiple balls. And then it was the idea that you would have to paint. And that one never actually saw a light, so I never actually released it, but it was something fun to work on. And then this is where I started, this is how I got into AR. So I grabbed this game and I said, well, the ARKey plugin that Unity, and this was a long time ago, they released that plugin, and I'm like, okay, can I do something with it? And I just grabbed the game, add the ARKey plugin to it. It wasn't AR Foundation yet. And I decided to put it in, and I saw it right on the corner of my house, and I'm like, this is crazy. I can augment the world. And yeah, I got hooked into AR at this point. And then this is a procedural generated building that I made for the asset store. And all of these things, as I was working on it, I was also selling Unity assets. I was selling apps and games. So I learned a lot through that process. So now, my time during college and university, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to study. So backing up, like thinking about college, and I did love breaking computers, so that was something that I knew. So, and I also knew how to fix them. So then computer science came in, and I wanted to do something related to computers, right? So I started to take different classes. I went into and took object-oriented programming, data structures, and Maya. And I remember taking a C++ class back then, and the teacher, I walk in and he was explaining pointers. And I'm like, what are those pointers? Like, the code to me, like when I look at it today, it's like, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like when learning a new language, you just look at it and you appreciate it and you understand it. But back then, when I looked at code, it was a really scary moment. And I'm like, do I really want to do this? And I think the thing to take away from that is like, I knew that I wanted to be a programmer because I saw other programmers in the class that were doing amazing things. So I kept on, I kept on pushing. I'm gonna learn this thing. I'm gonna learn these things. I kept on, that class. I finished it. Did a lot of projects. I did web development. I did intro to databases, SQL network, Python, Java, and a lot of these I still use today. When I think about Maya, I'm so glad that I took Maya, even though I don't use Maya today. I use Blender quite a bit. But a lot of the initial, classes in my early career is what allowed me to understand really how things work today. So really glad that I did that. So I persevered and finally was able to graduate and I have that core knowledge. So with XR Bootcamp, like if you're graduating today, congratulations, because that core knowledge is going to, basically it's going to be with you for life. Like that's something that you would never forget. So when I got my college degree, I'm like, okay, do I do software development? Oh, I want to do game development. Game development is cool, right? Like that's 3D. I can just work on game engines. And I didn't know much about what a game engines. I just knew it was cool because I was playing video games, StarCraft, Age of Empires, and Duke Nukem back in the day. So I love video games. But there was one thing that I knew that I didn't live in an area where there were a lot of opportunities for those type of careers. So this is where I said to myself, well, it's obvious what I'm going to go with, right? And then, no, it wasn't obvious. I did software development. And you would say, Dilmer, why? You're like, you do a lot of stuff with MR, with 3D, and all cutting edge technology. And yeah, those things are great. Like, yeah, we want to do the cool, but we want to be a little bit strategic about our career or future. And that's when I started looking into, like, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. So yes, I could have moved to a different location, but I didn't really want to move. My parents were here. I just moved, from another country. So I didn't want to go through that. So I'm like, okay, how many jobs in Salt Lake City do we have for game development and that kind of, and I did this search for multiple different sites. Oops, let me go back to that. And it was only 11 game developer jobs, right? And that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for game development. Then I look at Los Angeles, and yes, there's a lot more, 84 for the search. And back then, there was probably a lot less. This was a search that I looked at it yesterday. And then in New York, so you kind of get an idea, like if you go back 10 years, the opportunities of having these jobs was a lot less. So I decided to do software development because I did need to get a job, and software development for me was kind of a bridge to be able to do game development later on once I acquired. But I didn't know that back then. I just know it now because I went through this process. So it's great. Like this wasn't really the ultimate job that I wanted to get, but I still was gonna develop, right? Like I love coding, I love programming, I love learning new things, I love breaking computers. So the mistakes that I made prior to applying for a new job, I didn't really research enough about companies. I thought I would just have a degree, show up to the interview, and that was it. But no, like looking at it now, make sure that you're researching, the companies that you're applying for. You're looking at people that work there. You're trying to connect with people that work in those companies. Go to their website, and then get familiar with the companies that you're applying. And yes, not dressed properly was one. I show up at one of my interviews with, I didn't have shorts or a t-shirt. I did have kind of like a sweater like this and jeans. And the guy that interviewed me said, Dilmer, are you taking this seriously? And funny enough, that guy did hire me because he knew, but that was his first comment. So just think about like the company culture, right? Like nowadays you can work remotely. But if it's at a facility and it's a company, think about those things so that you are showing up properly to those interviews. And then not having enough experience before applying to certain jobs. I just graduated from college. So, prototyping and building things. At this point, I didn't have any games. So this was before me making games and getting into all those things. It was until my second job where I started to get more experience. So I didn't have enough experience. All I had was projects that I work on during college, which they were not like the ones that you do at XR Bootcamp, which are great because these are experiences that you can show. And mine were more like back-end things that weren't really that cool to show. So having, make sure that you have enough experience before applying or at least work with teams and prototypes on your own. And then, yeah, not having enough, I just didn't know what to expect on an interview. And it's not that you're gonna know at first, but I would recommend just, yeah, failing the first time and then doing multiple interviews. And if you get rejected, that's completely fine. That's part of the process. And then how did I find this job? Well, interviewing is a muscle. I got rejected a lot. And then finally one person liked my, my resume, my personality, how I was approaching the questions. So, and then I use sites like Monster, Indeed.com. I mean, nowadays you use LinkedIn, but back then that was available. And then I apply regularly to entry-level jobs, keep iterating. So that's one thing that is important is as you're interviewing and people are asking questions and you're going through this process, just don't keep the resume the way that it is at the beginning. That's going to be a Google document right now that you're going to be iterating and changing. Have other people look at it, get feedback, is going to keep changing. And then I gain skills such as agile methodologies so that I could manage projects better when working across teams, coding patterns, dependency injection, and so on, singletons. And I did a lot of presentations, communications. I think that helped me a lot with what I do at YouTube today. And then, yeah, I learned a lot about the .NET ecosystem, Visual Studio, SQL, C#. I touched a lot of different areas that I'm glad that I did. Then I got a job as a mid software developer after that. And the way that I found it is by making connections. So I had friends that graduated as well that told me about a company. So I applied, and it was a lot easier to get it because I already worked as a junior developer previously, right? I already redefined my resume. So I already had more experience, and I felt more confident also during interviews. And then I built a few MVC.NET prototypes prior to interviewing because they were looking for a developer that was doing MVC, Model View Controller, .NET development. So I actually did prototyping before going into the interview so that I was more prepared. So that's something that, like, if you're applying for a job and you kind of know what they're doing, prototype something before you go in so that you have a better idea. So skills gain, I did improve C# drastically, .NET ASP.NET, .NET Core, Transact SQL. I had to re-architect a huge application that was all built in more of a monolithic app. So everything was in the same project. There were no services. A lot of those things we take for granted today, but back then, like taking all the logic and responsibility of different areas within an app into services was a big deal. So I'm glad that I did that. And then this is where things started. And this is why hackathons are so important. I was working in this company and I basically was, I advanced to a full stack developer position. And in doing that, I learned a lot. So I'm like, maybe we should have a hackathon, right? Like, or we call it the Innovation Day, where we would work on projects that could solve different problems. And back then, I wanted to do mobile applications, so I helped kickstart that program. We built, I would say we, because it was a team effort to build different applications that did different things for the business that we were working on. So I learned Xcode, Objective-C. We did something with Alexa where we were able to, the company was doing e-commerce solutions. So back then we could actually order through Alexa and then tell it to check out. And then basically the whole process was through Alexa. So that was really cool to do. I did Android Studio. And then I discovered Unity. This is where the dark times started. But yeah, a friend of mine was working on a Unity project on the Innovation Day. And then that's how I kind of got really interested into Unity. So just as a summary, company hackathons ignited my curiosity. I would work from 9 to 5 as a software developer. And then after 9 to 5, I would basically just work on side projects. I started working on Stickman World. I developed that, and I would work until 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And in that process, I would talk about the process on social media. Everything that I was learning, I was always sharing. So I think building in public, 2017, that wasn't a thing. But I was doing it because I was enjoying, the responses from people, the feedback. They were also learning. I sold games, built a huge passion for mobile development. I mean, that's why I do Vision OS and Swift and It's not just because it's the cool thing, it's because it just brings me back to that time, and I think I see a huge potential for all of that technology. So how did I showcase my work and how you could do it better, right? So we always hear people say, you know, get a domain and then they don't do anything about it. So in my opinion, if you get a domain, do something about it. And this is where like showcasing your work really comes into play. And even when people are interviewing with me, and either for Meta or for other companies, I always look at like the portfolio, like what kind of things they have built. So getting a domain, getting a website. I think Farhan was saying that you guys, the ones that are graduating at Extra Bootcamp, use Notion, which is awesome. I think that's great. Do that, keep it simple, and then put the projects that you're working on, the highlights that you're working on. And a blog, I would say, is optional, but can help you with authority. So when people are looking for different content online, I think having a blog is important. You can even share that with the person that you're interviewing. Oh, I have experience with Vision OS. Look at this prototype that I built, and this is the article that I wrote about. That really opens doors. And I did that when I was applying to Meta, when I applied to FS Studio, with another company, and then create social media accounts. Make sure that you don't do a social media account under your studio name. I did that, and I thought that was gonna go well. It's okay to do it once you grow, but at the beginning, people want you. People want to see your personality. People want to see people. They don't want to just talk to companies. So, and you guys have seen that today with how influencers and people that you admire are talking about social media. It's all about you, not about the companies that you're working for. And then, yeah, provide value by building in public. I think it's really, really critical. Just think about the younger you and what you wish somebody would have taught you. I think that's something that I always think about when I'm making content. And then embrace video. I'm not saying that you need to be a content creator, but even to show the prototypes that you guys are building, or maybe you have somebody in your team that is interested in this, just make sure that, because this is how the future is going to be. It's more like about videos, and it's just a lot easier to portray your projects when you're doing video. And these are some of the different ideas, and CapCut is one that I use quite a bit. This Adobe Premiere, I would say, is optional, but if you want to use it, that one is paid. And then DaVinci Resolve, it's also one that I couldn't figure it out, so I went back to Adobe Premiere. And then devs, your GitHub account is a huge part of your resume. Trust me, that one is one that I would say is critical, even beyond getting your own website. I think your GitHub account, if you're doing development, that is the most important. And then these are some examples that I pull from people that I follow personally, like Curtis. You guys probably recognize some of these creators. It's an amazing, augmented reality developer. He works for Niantic, and he's always been sharing content too, things that he's learning. So this is his portfolio, right? You can send people to his Twitter account, to his website, and then they know that he's been working on those projects. The same thing with Alex. Alex is amazing. I met him at AWE back in the day, or it was MetaConnect, one of those events. But he also teaches, right? He also teaches. It's pretty, well known in the community. And then Mika Meal is one that I just met recently, and he's also doing amazing. Like, he started his account. He does have kind of like a business type account, but that's fine because it is tagged on his profile, and he talks about some of his projects. And then, in my case, it's YouTube. That's what I give the people that I'm applying for. You do not need to be a content creator to do this. This could be on GitHub. This could be a lot simpler than what we have here. But the key here is to start simple, right? Just your website or your GitHub account, and I'll give you some tips about those. So when you're thinking about your GitHub profile and open source projects, these are some things that I've been learning that are really critical. I try to use, your bio needs to represent what your ultimate goal is, right? Like, if you are a mixed reality developer that has done things with Pico or with Meta or with Magic Leap, or just put something in here that reflects that, like your passion, and then, or what you're applying for. Also, these CTAs are really important as well. As you're giving your resume, people want to know, okay, how do they communicate with you? And then what's your portfolio, maybe your website, you have a link in here. And then in my case, I have like all the social medias. the things that I look for when I'm like interviewing people, I look at my activity is pretty bad because I apply for Meta and I've been super busy, so I haven't been like producing as much code as I used to. Like if I go back to 2024, I was pretty active. And there are some people that are super, super active, but I want to see some activity, right? Like I think if you're going to be, putting your resume in there, you want to make sure that you are consistently updating things or uploading projects. And then some of your main projects, you can ping them just like I did here. My Vision OS inspiration for repo is one that I really enjoy working on. I want people to look at. And this could be that you ping the ones that are relevant to the job that you're going to be applying for. But these are some of the ones that I really enjoy working on. So I ping those Meta XR tabletop games, right? I'm applying for a Meta job. So when I send these to the guys that are, or the girls that are interviewing me, then I want to make sure that that is in there. And then, yeah, like I said here, provide a bio based on your expertise, CTAs we talked about. One thing that I learned, and this was a feedback that somebody gave me, is when you're creating a project, you want to make sure that you put an MIT license on it. And this is really important. And it's really easy. You create a new file called license, and the GitHub will tell you, oh, you want to create a license. So these are all the different license types. And the reason why this is important is because it encourages contributions from other people that are doing open source already. So they know, oh, there's a license and I am protected to contribute into that repo. Companies or individuals will feel safe when using your code because the MIT protects other companies too from using your code. They can use it for open source, they can use it commercially, and it protects you as a developer. It's a really good license to look at. And then I say keep it alive because don't just do it once and then forget about it. Just make it part of you, right? Like you want to do this thing for years to come. So here's an example of the license. This is a repo that I did on AI agents, and it was super fun to work on this project. So licensing here, and then that will basically generate this MIT license. And then I always put a description, a link to, could be your website here, and then keywords. And then in my opinion, don't just put a project and that's it. I would make sure that I work on the README. Anything that you want people to understand what's included. Again, videos, in my case, GIF for repos are really important. I think they add a level of polishing and people can see exactly what is included. So yeah, this was fun to work on. This was a parking, I mean, we look at AI today and it's so advanced, but I think this one was, 5 years ago. This was a big deal 5 years ago. Maybe not as much today, but it was pretty fun to work on. So my experience when applying for an XR job, and so to find a job, it's really a lot about connections. Like you can't really find a job today unless you have connections, and that's really how things work in today's industry. So you want to build your network, and this could be going to hackathons. You can go to events, AWE, MIT, GDC. There is a huge value of being there and making connections with other people, showing them your work, sharing your passion. Growing your LinkedIn account is really, really a big deal. So that's where you also build your connections. I would say in person and LinkedIn are the biggest ways to find a job. And when I say growing your LinkedIn, I'm not saying like add everybody and like I did that initially, adding people randomly. And that's a big mistake. You want to add people that are basically responding to your comments. So you're posting about a project and then they're like, oh, Dilmer, like I'm working on that. That's cool. So then you kind of are building a meaningful connection there. And then provide free value. Like the more content that you push out, free value that is helping somebody solve an issue or learn something new or get inspired, I think that's where you build amazing connections. And I made a big mistake when applying to Meta and other companies is I applied to many companies. I applied for more than 80, 100 companies. I said 30 plus, but I applied to many companies and I didn't tell anybody anything. So you want to make it public. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. You must know somebody who knows your work, right? Like make it public, make an announcement on LinkedIn, talk about it on Twitter. Even if you have like 10 connections in LinkedIn, that's okay. It's going to grow. You must be over prepared for your interview. This one is big because I got an interview for a Vision OS development position, and the person that did the interview, she was more of an HR person, and she was probably pretty capable, but she was checking boxes. Dilmer knows this, Dilmer knows this, he doesn't know this. We're not moving you to the next interview. And I was too honest. She asked me, do you have two years of Swift UI development experience? And I said, no, I've been, playing around with it for, different months for a period of time. She wanted to know that it was 2 years, check. So sometimes you don't want to be too honest, but at the same time, you want to know who you're talking to as well. So I'm not saying lie to them, but just feel confident. You got it. You work on projects. They're looking for you. And then you must keep interviewing. And I think I didn't realize that until I started getting other interviews. And then again, iterating on your resume, I think that's really critical. On the resume structure tips, this was something that I went through many iterations. And a couple of things that I recommend, it's your CTAs to put them at the very top. So this has a link to your GitHub. So if I get a resume and I'm looking at your resume, I'm just going to click on your GitHub. That's the first thing that I'm going to do and look at the projects that you work on. I might click on, it really depends on the person that I'm hiring, but just think about what that other person might be looking for. If it's a developer position and you develop MR projects, have that be the first thing. And then a summary, which matches what I did on my GitHub. And then keywords, skills, I seen people putting that at the very bottom. But me, when looking at a resume, I want to look at those things at the very top, right? I want to know what are the areas that this person is familiar with. And sometimes people put like hundreds or like 50. I would keep it to like 2 lines like this or 3 lines, because in reality, people look for full stack developers and they want you to know everything, but you don't know everything, right? So I would put the highlights areas. And then I also tend to put like the portfolio link here, or like, if this is in my experience, links to projects that you work on are really important. The same thing with company links that you work on. So I work as a R&D developer at FS Studio. So I wanted Meta to know that. So I put a link to them so that they knew exactly what my experience was. And then I would keep the resumes short. I seen resumes 5 pages, 4 pages, and that's okay. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I would keep it short. I would keep it 1 to 2 pages, three at the most. And I also keep these as a Google Doc so that you guys can always be iterating and changing that. Don't just do, a document that you don't know where to find. I done it, where to find it. I'm like, okay, which hard drive did I put my resume on? And then I never iterate through it. So tech changes rapidly. So I want to make sure that I have it up to date. And then see skills at the very top. And then education is important, but not as important. And that's interesting, because in today's developer design, it's more about what you have done than what school did you go to. And that's what I'm seeing. Like, people are looking for doers and not people that just know theory. So in my opinion, I would say if you went to Harvard, if you went to Stanford, I think that's great. That's amazing. Congratulations. But I would always put that at the very end. And then, excuse me, and then read through everything as if you were the hiring manager, right? You want to look at it from a perspective of the other person, and then proofread carefully. Make sure that there's no typos, that sentences do make sense. So I talk a lot about mobile development and then some of the things that I did on ARKit. And these are just some of the projects that I work on that I think allow me to get a job in the XR industry. And this doesn't mean that you need to make a video on a brain-computer device or on machine learning, but this could be your projects, right? Like, each one of these could be your projects. So that's what I use YouTube for. It's kind of to provide value to the community, but also to build my skills. Like, if something is coming out, I want to learn about it. So I did that when, NextMind came out. This company was actually sold to Snap, and I don't know that I did anything about it. And it was pretty cool, because it was a brain-computer interface that you could put on your head, and then you could use that data to communicate with that device within Unity. So I built a locomotion for that. I did a ChatGPT AI assistant as soon as ChatGPT came out. I did like a machine learning thing that would detect if you were wearing a face mask. Again, this was during COVID, so AI wasn't as cool, as good as it is, as it was back then. It was just starting, so this was a big deal to me. And then I did things for like creating a mixed reality productivity app. I did things with eye tracking where you can stare at a number here and you could type in a passcode, WebXR, Vision OS. So the takeaway from this is experiment as much as you can. I think that's, have fun, have passion with it, and then make sure that you put it in a way that whatever you're doing, there's gotta be a goal, right? Like, yeah, you're learning, but you want to build your portfolio with that learning. And that's pretty much what I was doing when, since I started making prototypes. And then, yeah, I did a lot of videos. So do something that pushes you beyond your comfort zone. So I think about this one quite a bit because you guys are like, okay, I graduated and now I need to go and interview and I need to get a job. And you might be getting anxiety about all the different things that I talked about, but that's normal. I think it's normal to feel like that you're not prepared. It's okay to feel that, you're not there yet. You're going to feel very uncomfortable through the entire process, and that's completely normal. So you want to do something that pushes you beyond your comfort zone and interview as much as you can. So one of the things that I did was I did my MIT opening speech. I do YouTube recordings, and those are easy because I'm really familiar. And when I did the camera thing, it was weird at the beginning, and then I learned. So doing this was a big deal. I had anxiety. I was really nervous. And when I started talking, it just went all away. So in your case, you're finding a new job, you're meeting new people, completely normal if you feel uncomfortable. And yep, that's me speaking. I am almost about to pass out in that video, but it was an amazing experience, and I recommend you getting really uncomfortable because that's where you'll grow. And then, yep, just a couple of pictures. And then, yep, my XR job today as a developer advocate. So I went through all of that, took the development as a junior developer backend, and then mid developer backend, some front end, then an XR job, a FS Studio, and then that allowed me to land a job that I'm really excited about, and I want to work with many of you and the community. I think this is the last slide. Well, and that's everything I have, and congratulations to everybody, and thank you for your time.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Dilmer. I think it's an amazing opportunity to have this kind of like a journey in a nutshell. I really love how you actually share lessons learned, some intimate, even personal stories inside. So thanks for being so open and sharing this with us in such a little bit not easy to understand landscape today, right? In a job environment. So we have quite a bit of questions. We can probably start graduation ceremony, I think, in 5-10 minutes. So I want to quickly ask as much as I can. I hope you are ready to answer a little bit quickly. Maybe we can at least give tips and guidance, and then we can maybe continue afterwards as well on the Discord server. So recommendations on the job application process, quality versus quantity. How would you call it?
Yeah, that's a question that I ask myself a lot. I would say quantity. Quantity at the beginning as much as you can, because quantity will allow you to understand what's available. And then once you get to a certain level, then quality.
Amazing. Perfect. Perfect. So when you started, how did you manage to go on? What job did you have other than YouTube channel?
Yeah, so what job? So I had a lot of jobs prior to that, which was the backend as a .NET developer. And yeah, I think those jobs allowed me to really understand, all the intricacies of development. So like if I were to start today with Unity and that's all I really knew, I think there will be a lot of things that I will be missing, right? Like, well, you need to integrate with a web service, you need to create a web socket to communicate, real-time information. Maybe you want to get skeleton data from your Quest and then synchronize that with another device. And like the stuff that I did with networking with NGO, if I didn't have the jobs that I had prior to that, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And then that wouldn't have allowed me to implement networking on the job that I had at FS Studio, where we work on devices such as the Magic Leap, and we had to build things with multiplayer. So yeah, those jobs, your perfect job is never going to be your first job. So I think that's
perfect. Yeah, to set the expectations. If someone wants to start similar like a content creation journey, what is like a one sentence advice that you would give to them?
If you want to create a content, I would say
On
start
development, especially on development, let's say, not
on
like
the
TikTok videos.
yeah on development. Yeah, I think build in public, like think about something that you can help the younger version of yourself and something that you're passionate about, and then start simple. Like if you want to do YouTube or if you want to do Twitter, just post something simple. It could be just a video that is 20 seconds of something that you built, and then make that a frequent thing.
Okay, so we have two questions. I will combine. Is it challenging to find XR design roles? Asaya is asking, I have a background in UX design and coding. One other person saying, I'm a 3D modeling and I have a 3D modeling and engineering background. I don't think coding is for me, but I understand the components of front and back end. Is there any good job position? I also have a few ideas about that, but first would like to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so I've been working with many UX designers, UX UI designers at Meta. So they've been hiring quite a bit of people, and the ones that I work with were basically they developed the immersive debugger and also Meta XR Simulator. So those things are great, but now they want to make it easier. We're getting a lot of feedback from the community saying that they want like make the UX more intuitive. So I know on the Meta side that's happening. I know the Bezi application has been also looking for UX and UI, and then with AI today, I don't think you need to be. You can do a lot more today. So we do need developers, but I think it's changing the balance of things where more UX UI can also develop because of all these AI tools that are becoming available.
Exactly. Perfect. I mean, one maybe small thing I can say is, that's why we call it prototyper actually. In my opinion, if you may not need to be a full-fledged developer, but if you are a prototyper, and can develop an app at least to a prototype MVP level by yourself without the need of another person, then you have the opportunities probably opens up for you at least 10x. I would clearly, I can definitely say that, because in the design case, you always need a developer to realize your like a prototype, design prototype, right? Like if you're a prototyper, you can literally show the demo to convince someone, right? So it's much easier to relay your message. That's why we have lots of no coders, artists, people who don't like so much coding, join our bootcamp, and then that's the exact thing that we focus. Like first learn just enough coding knowledge so you can actually have enough background to prototype, and then anyways you can still do your design focus there as well. We will see a lot of examples actually in the next few minutes, which I think in the next few minutes we will start. So let's take a few more questions. In the meantime, our students and our guests are joining slowly. So in the meantime, we can definitely take a few more questions. Resume template, I think Dilmer did a very nice example. So that's great. Someone asked your age. They are trying to find out if they are still late to the game or they can catch up.
I actually turned 40 on when I was at MIT Reality Hack. So yeah, 40 years old.
Exactly. We were celebrating your birthday. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, even someone at 40s can, it's not late for someone at 40s. We can say that, right? There's an example, very nice live example here.
Yeah, so to comment on that, I had a really good friend. I think he was on his he was 58 or 59, and when I had my second job, and he was sharp and he was developing and he was a great lead. So yeah, I don't think age really plays. I mean, it does when you start getting, but if you exercise and you stay healthy, if you're passionate about what you're learning, I don't think even like working at Meta and other companies. I was really surprised to see how many people that were like past 60 working in amazing projects. So yeah, I don't think age is that important. And I'm gonna keep telling that myself because I'm getting older. So but
Exactly.
it is how the market it is right now.
Someone asked, how did you avoid burnout, especially during YouTube? Because we know, I mean, maybe not everyone knows, but I can tell everyone now that Dilmer is a one-person army, I would say that handles everything as a YouTube creator. So what was, I mean, if you actually, Dilmer is such a open person that if you a little bit watch closely his tweets, you can understand his like inner motivation on that moment. He really openly shared his ups and downs with us. I was really one of the a lot of people that even follow his journey. He's still creating YouTube content, but you can really feel like, okay, this person is really motivating himself, and then you also give a lot of advice to people. You already inspired us a lot through Twitter and socials.
No, thank you for him. Yeah, no, I do get burnout. I think that's normal. But what I've been learning is, so for instance, right now I'm working for Meta, right? And I also have a big channel, and like you have to think about you though, your health. Like, what is the most important thing? Like for me, it's my family, right? So you say, okay, that's one bucket. Another thing is finances, right? So that's another bucket. Your job, right? Like that's a bucket. And then my channel, it's another bucket. I'm really important. So how can you make all those things work? Is well, maybe I'll produce a little bit less videos. So instead of making 3 videos a week, I'll make 1 video a week or 1 video every 2 weeks. Then you would say, okay, now like I want to still prototype. So can I do that in the job that I have and then sell that to my employer and say, well, this is going to help you doing. So I think it's like thinking strategically of your life. I mean, your life isn't a strategy. It's like every decision that you make, and it's not going to work. There's times when I don't feel like recording. There's times that I want to spend more time with the family, and I think that's okay. It's like just think about what you can do that will keep it long term, even if it's a small. Everything, if you do it every day, I think that adds up, and that's how I do it today. It's like I just do a little bit every day, and then people see, oh, it's like this whole thing, but it took like 2 weeks to do, versus like, oh, he just posted a video. Like, so try to make it more agile and treat your life that way.
And then practicing is always make it quicker, better, right? Is contract work in XR common in the field? I can tell quickly that there is no, I would say, a much more guaranteed way of earning money in addition or as a main source of income for XR. Contracting is really something that right now works still well in this unpredictable job market. What do you think, Dilmer?
Yeah, no, that happens. That people that goes back to linking and goes back to having connections, because people will reach out to you once you post about the work that you've done. They'll start reaching out to you and say, "Hey, do you have time to work on this project? Could you do that? And what's your availability? Discord and things like that are really critical." So no, yes, I know Meta has a lot of contingent workers, like contracting workers. And I know before then, different companies have been looking for contracting work. So yes, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Perfect. There is actually one important question that I'm also receiving a lot, and I also see, for example, one person is having a civil engineering background, right? So how I can position myself. I think the critical thing here is if you have this prototyping superpower, like at least like you can build the idea of someone else, the brief of someone else, or your idea into reality with this prototyping skill, plus your unique subject matter expertise or background, like civil engineering, painting, guitar playing, whatever it is, right? When you combine these two superpowers together, that's the part that you will see value, because you will probably be one of the few people in the world that actually combines these two. And then look at the best apps and talents, right? They are actually bringing the portfolio of something they truly passionate about on top of XR prototyping, because XR is a simulation tool and Unity is game engine that you can build everything. So try to combine what you like most, or whatever your subject matter expertise, with this prototyping skill, which we will see in the next few minutes. If an interesting example of them, like what kind of very niche subject matter expertise or interest that people have, and then they make it realized in XR, which I have never seen some of them before. So that's a great opportunity. But the second part that I really want to spotlight, as you mentioned, Dilmer, you mentioned about, for example, Mika, who was actually our student.
Oh, wow.
Exactly, he was our actual student, and he worked a lot, especially in the prototyping phase. He created amazing projects in the previous cohorts. He joined XR Hack last year. They created this Comic Quest, this comic book reader in a special environment. They used AI to segment everything there, and now he's now doing a lot of like projects, pitching to investors, etc. So amazing success story. But if he only creates that and then keep it to himself in his own website, no one would be aware of that, and Dilmer will never mention about him in this moment to hundreds of people today, right?
Yeah.
So there is a reason that we are saying you don't need to be like Dilmer. I don't think that we are that capable of being Dilmer as a YouTube content creator. But what we can be like Mika, who can share, engage, interact, and experiment, right? Like Mika shared a lot of experiments. He didn't even finish experimenting after graduation. So I think it's also good advice for people graduating today, that we actually we shouldn't stop experimenting, always try new things. Now AI is coming. We have also a lot of interesting projects that we are cooking up with Dilmer, with other companies as well. So with about AI. So please focus on AI side of things as well. There are tons of things already being done last year. I have to now uh, finish this Ask Me Anything session. Dilmer will be with us. He will also do recap for people who are joining for the graduation ceremony as well. But thanks, first of all, to Dilmer and everyone joining. Now I will share my presentation that we can quickly start the graduation ceremony. Thank you again, Dilmer. Do you have, if you have any kind of like a takeaways, etc., we will have you in the next few minutes. So I would love to have a very nice maybe final message from you in the next few minutes. Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone for asking these interesting questions.